Hello, you're watching Dukascopy TV, and on the last day of the trading week, we're bringing you an update on Iraq, as recent figures suggest growth in the country and the resurgence of the Iraq Stock Exchange is on the rise. Well, joining me on the line is Head of Global Intake and Iraq Specialist at the Investment Risk Analysis Group, AKE, John Drake. John, nice to have you back on the programme. Now, you've always been pretty upbeat about the progress of Iraq and investment there in general. Would you go as far as saying the violence in the country hasn't really had any impact on investments such as equities?
It's nice to hear the word resurgence used in Iraq for something positive and economic related rather than militant violence on the ground. I have definitely seen a rise in violence in Iraq over the last year, but the impact on investments has been limited because of the violence is concentrated in certain areas. A lot of the areas where investors are more interested or even, dare I say, excited at the moment is places like the Kurdish regional government territory in the north or the oil-rich south, where there is a lot of projects opportunity taking place at the moment and where the levels of violence are still very low. So there is still interest in the country in certainly areas which are rich in hydrocarbons and which are less affected by this, the news headline-grabbing violence which is continuing to take place in the country.
One theory for a fairly robust increase in investment from overseas in Iraq lies in the company Asia Shell. They were the largest to be floated in the Middle East in 6 years. Do you think more news like this could help attract further attention from abroad?
Certainly, there are key sectors in Iraq that really need a lot of investment and development. Telecommunications, mobile phones is definitely a large growth area in the country. The market has very low penetration rates in many areas, and given the nature of landline infrastructure, there's definitely a lot of growth. There's a lot of requirement for construction and the building of a more advanced, modern country. So there's definitely lots of opportunity for various different sectors. A lot of the government revenue is going to be energy related, but there's demand for all sorts of services and sectors, things like healthcare, transportation, housing. There are lots of different sectors that require investment in order to build up the country after its years of neglect and conflict.
Okay, let's focus more on your specialist field, and that's risk. If the situation in Iraq is still volatile, which it is, what sort of advice are you giving your clients?
Well, a lot of the advice has not really changed over the last 10 years. It's all about identifying risks and mitigating them. One of the best ways to mitigate risk is to avoid the areas where it's most likely to take place. From a security perspective, that's related to things like bombings and shootings, and they are very much concentrated in the central region. A lot of the investments are taking place in other areas, and clients would be advised to minimize their time spent in at-risk parts of the country, be it downtown Baghdad or cities in Anbar province. Unfortunately, with Baghdad, that's where the majority of high-profile political meetings are going to have to take place. It's where the ministries are located. Anyone that wants to have a big investment in the country will likely have to go to Baghdad at some point. So it's not simply a case of saying don't go to the affected areas. For the individuals that do have to go to higher risk areas, there are a range of additional risk mitigation techniques that can be put in place, and these can range from commonsensical approaches such as making sure that you have first aid training and you have the proper medical kits with you or in close proximity to you when you're working in an at-risk area, or it could involve the use of managing your profile so that you either blend in and you don't stand out as a potential target, or you choose to go high profile and you use more armored vehicles to protect you from a potential blast. Things like the training of personnel so they know what to do in the event of a crisis, and basically making sure you don't stand out and you've got proper insurance in place and you've got secure accommodation. There are a range of techniques that can be employed to minimize the level of risk posed to someone working in the more at-risk areas. So
you're saying that you'd recommend a trip to Iraq for fund managers and business owners alike, regardless of the rising violence and risk involved?
Certainly. If you're interested in doing business in the country, and that's in the short term and the long term, it's very much a business environment where face-to-face meetings are not only seen as normal if you're wanting to show your commitment to doing business in the country, it's also highly appreciated. If you're able to go into the country and meet a potential partner or investor or local company or local official, you are demonstrating your your willingness to commit to the country. They are aware that there is a high level of risk in the country, so that foreign investors who travel there are seen as demonstrating a level of commitment which is often reciprocated in the longer term. If you want to do business in the country, you have to express your commitment and your presence. So traveling to these areas is very much an important part of any foreign investor looking to do business in the country.
Okay, thanks John for giving our viewers your advice on the risks of investment in Iraq as it currently stands. That's all we've got time for at the moment. Join me from Thursday the 27th in our studio for face-to-face interviews with a host of financial professionals, bringing you a range of topics which I'm sure will interest you. But for now, bye-bye.